In the years when Temple was mute, when she didn't want me to touch her, when she preferred to play with her spit and feces, I myself was still a child, a blank sheet of paper with nothing on it. I kept dreaming of empty rooms. Some were beautiful, with crystal chandeliers and gold wall sconces. Some were bare, with rough-hewn wooden walls, but always they were empty. Had my undeveloped soul no furniture, no rugs, no sofa, not even a straight-backed chair? How will I get to be a good mother, or even a decent human? One day I decided that the only way out of this emptiness would be to clean and put in order the dirtiest room in the house and work my way up room by room to being an acceptable member of the human race. It didn't occur to me that the task had nothing to do with understanding my child or even myself. All I could think was, where do I start? What room do I pick? That's when I spotted the stairs to the cellar. Yes, that's the room. I'll clean and put in order our old stone basement. I flipped on the wall switch, and in the dank gloom below, a single light bulb dangling from a double socket let out a flicker. Ah, a double socket. I can plug in the vacuum. I bumped the old Hoover down the cellar stairs. Oh, what a mess. I'll start by tidying up that heap of unwanted things too good to throw away. That'll make room to bundle the old newspapers waiting to be picked up by the Salvation Army. I nudged the newspapers with the vacuum hose. Under them was a layer of dry grit that had crumbled from between the stones of the cellar wall. Okay, I'll deal with that too. Maybe put new cement in the wall cracks. But first, the newspapers. I started to bundle the papers, and an army of ants came out. I sucked up the ants with the hoover, but crumbs of cement grit got sucked up too, and they began a death rattle in the hose nozzle. I turned off the hoover, prized the cement bits out of the hose, and laid them in a neat pile on the top cellar stair, giving the ants just time enough to send for backup support. Out of the wall crevices came a horde of spiders. I scraped the vacuum hose over the wall, and a rock dropped out. I'm not achieving redemption. I'm breaking up the foundations of our house. In a guilty panic, I bolted up the stairs, dragging the old Hoover behind me, yanking the electric cord out of the socket, and blowing the dim light bulb. I wasn't even fit to clean a basement. I had no words to explain it. I didn't know I was depressed, and even if I had known, I wouldn't have admitted it. Besides, who could I admit it to? In the early 1950s, we still lived in a world where the tag end of Victorian protocol determined what we were allowed to tell each other. We wore hats and gloves, and any indication that things might not be proper at home was kept under wraps. The neighbor who didn't pay his taxes until the IRS tracked him down, did he go to jail or merely pay a fine? We none of us knew. We only whispered about it. The neighbor who died of a sudden heart attack, it was years before we learned that he had killed himself. When the neighbors asked me what was wrong with Temple, I had to gulp to get out the word autism, infant schizophrenia. They asked no further. They knew what schizophrenia was, but they were staunch. They included Temple anyway. They swept my child into the neighborhood tribe, and for that I am eternally grateful. It may have saved Temple's life, to say nothing of my own. But it didn't explain why I kept hiding my feelings. Alarm, depression, despair. Hiding them even from myself. It was years before I understood that there is no explanation for denial. Autism is overwhelming, and we hide. Mothers admit their feelings only to close friends, show them occasionally in overweight. We hunger for love from a baby whose autism causes such social isolation that we cannot even enjoy the homely game of peekaboo. A baby needs a mother to know she's a baby, but a mother needs a baby to know she's a mother. And dads? At a recent conference, a strapping Texas dad, 6 feet 200 pounds, struggles to tell me about his half-grown son and bursts into tears. He's so overwhelmed by his boy that he no longer feels he's the honorable man he thought he was. Stammering incoherently, he begs me to give him a hug. We hug, and in that strange moment he becomes what? A shame-filled child asking for forgiveness? A self-absorbed adolescent who wants out? My guess is the hug is an SOS. He aches to leave his family so he can reclaim his honor, but he knows the unjust toll it will take. He may jump ship anyway, but if he does, he will leave damaged. Siblings, too, will be damaged. It's not just that they're reduced to being little helpers, and that happens. They're deprived of a sense of their own emotional growth, and they're too young to understand what they're losing. An autistic child is praised extravagantly for achieving or even approximating behavior that's expected from the sibling, but no one praises the sibling. At school games, autistic kids can be bad sports. They equate game winning with praise they get for good behavior. So when they follow the game rules and don't win, they're furious and vent. The sibling stands by, silent and mortified, while his little friends snicker. He can't speak up for fear he'll look disloyal. Nobody praises him for his loyalty or even notices it. Meanwhile, the autistic child has discovered that tantrums get him what he wants, since the sibling hasn't lived long enough to understand the unfair advantage this is. He accepts the role of smoothing the path without understanding its cost. It soon becomes his identity. Stress compounds when families take autistic kids into a store or a restaurant. Despite an educated press, the everyday world disapproves of public meltdowns, and when it happens, they're apt to tell off parents. Then, when parents explain, remorse sets in, and they suffer the nagging feeling that they've not been the kindly folk they thought they were. There's no getting away from it. We're socially connected creatures, incomplete without each other. In 1624, the poet John Donne told us, quote, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent." 400 years later, bioneurologist B.S. Ramachandran affirmed Donne's words with scientific terms. Quote, "The uniquely human sense of self is not an airy nothing without habitation and a name. The self actually emerges from a reciprocity of interacts with others." Where there's autism, that reciprocity doesn't work. At a recent autism conference, I told a version of this and included the tale of cleaning my basement. During the break, a mother introduced me to her 7-year-old autistic son. He wants to ask you a question. Why did you want to clean that old basement? It doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. But that's what I did. Why? I don't know why. The boy kept on asking. He wanted to know logically why I, the autism expert, would do such a dumb thing. If he could learn why, maybe learn it straight from the horse's mouth, then he wouldn't be so thrown off by other people's dumb behavior. Tell me the story again. I can't. Why not? We've used up all the break time. The boy understood that answer. He'd learned in school that when the bell rings, time's up, class is over. That's the rule. He saw the conference break as being like school. So time's up, to his way of thinking, was a logical, rule-based answer to a logical question. For me, hiding my feelings from my conscious self by vacuuming the cellar was a temporary solution to the stress of autism. But the dreams of empty rooms were signaling a psychic loneliness I had yet to accept. How could I explain that to a child? Besides, the boy didn't want a feeling answer. He wanted a logical answer. I thought of Arthur, the boy in chapter 1. He too wanted a logical answer. His delight in jeopardy wasn't just in the questions and answers, but that logic and memory didn't stir up feelings. Also, there was a camaraderie in the program. Though the contestants were in competition, they seemed to like each other and enjoy each other's command of facts. At times, Arthur found he knew the Jeopardy answer before they did, and it made him feel a part of the group. Information is only fun when there's somebody to tell it to. Unwittingly, Arthur, the questioning boy, and I were each of us in our own way trying to deal with the psychic loneliness that haunts autism. Arthur by joining forces with information, the questioning boy by investing in logic, and I by thinking I could clean and tidy up the age-old conflict between mind and impulse, power and altruism. What the poet Yeats called the foul rag and bone shop of the human heart. Yeats dreamed up those words in 1937 when World War II was about to burst into flames. We were all too frightened and too busy gunning up to wonder when, in the lost eons of prehistory, did we emerge from instinct-driven herd animals, marking our territory with urine, into self-aware, idea-aware, death-aware humans.